Welcome everyone, and we are excited to be partnering again with to run this workshop. We've been doing this many different versions, and this is our first virtual one. And of course, it is awesome to see people from all over the world. So thank you for joining. My name is Chklovski, and I'm the founder and CEO of Technovation. And the title of this today's workshop, with lots of exciting tutorials and videos and chats, is empowering girls and women to use space technology and AI for sustainable development, the SDGs. And I wanted to share this recent paper in Nature that talks about how you can categorize the different SDGs. And I think that's a start to try to figure out what types of technologies can be used to tackle which types of problems. And so the main focus of today's workshop is going to be planetary integrity, but also thinking about how people are part of the solution. And this holistic viewpoint is really, really important for us as we try to figure out what type of technology is not just important to monitor, but also to drive change. And so UNESCO just released a very helpful report on the state of water in the world 2021. During COVID-19, water has been a very big part about trying to prevent the spread of infection through hygiene, hand washing. But in most areas of the world, access to clean water is not something that can be taken for granted. Even here in California, in Silicon Valley, we are undergoing such a severe drought that water is being limited. So nobody is exempt from this concern. But how do you start to tackle this problem? And UNESCO offers a simple framework. So the first is very, very basic: recognize the value of a particular natural resource. And many times people don't even realize that there's a value to clean air, to clean water, and to think about this value for your future generations. So start to document what is the value of this natural resource, and then bring everybody part of who's affected by this into the conversation. Then you can start to create a common language between all the different groups, and think about how do you build trust. Then you can take action on conserving it, monitoring how conservation efforts are going. A key part in different areas is actually building technical knowledge in youth in these areas. And that's our hope, that in partnership with all these groups coming today, that we are helping build this capacity. And finally, this leads to innovation and resilience. I just wanted to share some of the cool examples that I found really inspiring. This one is Resource Watch, where you can actually look at different data sets. These are public data sets from organizations like NASA, the European Space Agency. This one is monitoring fires real time. So I took this picture yesterday, August 20th, of all the major fires across the world. You can look at many different, so there's a thing called the Planet Pulse, and different groups have made apps using this data to tackle problems that they think are relevant to them. There's one called the Environmental Democracy Index that looks at how minorities are being impacted by climate issues. And dive in a little bit deeper, which is what today is about. How do you educate? I think the first is, like I was saying, raising awareness, using data of the existence of a natural resource, but also the benefit. And then, as you'll see, this data that is publicly available is not enough. And we need people on the ground like yourself to actually contribute real-time data. And then a technology like an app can actually be used to tell stories, because data, who will change their behavior based on a data point? We've changed our behavior when people tell us, this is why you should do it, this is important. So an app can help drive change in behavior, which is what we want. And finally, there can be some degree of cost sharing and social entrepreneurship that results in a sustainable solution. So this is an example from a framework of how to protect and develop forest landscapes. And it explains how many different groups are usually impacted by a climate issue. So the first is, of course, the people living there. Second are organizations like who may be corporations that may be benefiting from the land. And finally, there are nonprofit groups, scientists, and of course, other countries that really benefit from having a beautiful natural resource. But this graphic, it kind of explains how satellite imagery, powerful tools like AI, machine learning, is very important to understand the state of a problem or the state of a resource, but it's actually the people living on the ground that are needed to provide actual information. And I'll end with this example. So this tool, I think it's called World Peace. I forget what the S stands for, but it's a global map of areas that are experiencing drought, and as a result, there's agriculture insecurity, food insecurity, and it predicts which areas may be at risk for conflict, where peace in a community is at threat. And so it is using AI and machine learning based on a lot of training, based on a lot of historic data. But guess where sometimes or many times this doesn't work. And many times it predicts that a community is at high risk of a conflict, and it's not, and there is no conflict. And this is why we need people to be part of this, because the machine learning or the AI model doesn't take into account the strength of the trust that community people have within one another. And this is why you need the global satellite data to tell you that there may be a problem, but then you need people on the ground to actually add that to say, well, you know, we really, in this community, there's a lot of high degree of trust. We can work our way out of this situation. So that's it. I just wanted to give you an overview of the powerful resources and tools that we have for you, and also to get some excitement about what you can do. So I want to hand it over to my colleague, or our partner, Jorge, from the UN Office of Outer Space Affairs. We are super excited to partner with them, because without their support, we would not be able to go into this field at all. So Jorge, he is he is a scientific affairs officer at the Office for Outer Space Affairs at the UN, United Nations. And we've been trying to figure out a partnership for so many years, and we're absolutely excited to be here, actually sharing valuable tools. And later, Jorge and his colleague Alice will be leading us through a tutorial. But Jorge, would you like to open up the workshop?
Thank you very much, Tara. It's really a pleasure to be here today. And as you said, I mean, we have been working so hard to materialize this collaboration, and this collaboration is so important that we are really happy to be here. I have tried to share my screen, but I think I cannot.
Maybe try now, Jorge, because I was sharing.
Okay. It just says disable participant screen sharing, so it's maybe my problem. It's not really a big deal. I can go just speaking. So I have several messages today. One of the messages that I have is actually in my shirt, in my T-shirt. It basically says "Real men are feminist," and that goes with what you were mentioning, Tara, before. People is part of the solution. When we are talking about sustainability, we are all in this. We are all in this on the same boat and on equal footing. And we have to realize that if we are looking at the Earth, and that was my first slide, the blue pale image that was taken by Voyager. So when you are looking from really far to the Earth, it's just a blue pale dot, very fragile in space. And all the people that have existed, all the people that you know, has been in that blue pale dot that we call home, as Carl Sagan was mentioning. We realize how fragile Earth is when looking from space. And today we have a lot of tools that help us understand our planet much better, our environment, our impacts on the environment, and what we can do actually to make less impact, or to have less impact and less footprint on the planet. There are a lot of things that you can actually do utilizing space. You can, for instance, plan a fleet of vehicles that is transporting, I don't know, food, to take the best routes so they are polluting less and using less fuel, and therefore having less impact. You can actually monitor crops to see whether they need more water, to say that if they are affected by a bug, to see how well they're growing, and invest in less effort, less pesticide, less water, again, having less impact in our planet. There are many applications. You are going to learn a lot about the applications that are possible from space. There are also a lot of misconceptions. I mean, everybody is used to see satellite images from the movies, and you actually can see what a person is reading in a newspaper in a movie using a satellite. It is not like that, but you actually can see and understand a lot of things. There are images that are taken from satellites that help us understand the global picture, but there are images that are taken from a satellite that help us understand the dynamics in local communities and the impact that local community is having on the environment. But there is a very important thing that was mentioned by Tara, which is satellite cannot do everything. Local communities have a responsibility and have actually the real knowledge. It is there where it lies the true power of space. When you are mixing and combining the knowledge that you have on the ground, because of the local community, you know exactly the environment where you are facing, with additional information that you are getting from space. And that's where space becomes a really powerful tool to actually have less impact in our planet and be much more sustainable and preserving our planet for the future generations. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to see the presentations today. There is a really, really interesting coming up. A lot of presentations coming up, really interesting.
Thank you, Jorge. And sorry about not sharing your slide. Do you want to share your pale blue dot image? I always love that picture. And it always shows, yes, okay, how insignificant we are.
Yes, and we are all in the same boat, right? I mean, we have to work all for the same. If not, it doesn't really work. We are one humanity, one humankind.
Okay. So, Jorge, just to clarify, you're not sharing, or are you sharing? You're done, right?
Well,
yeah.
I'm not sharing now. I can share. I mean, I can actually put the slide so everybody can see it, right?
I wanted to see the.
So that's actually the slide. I mean, it's not the best resolution, but that resolution makes us even think how more insignificant we are. We are just there from really far, and it's just a small pale dot. And if you take into account the distances in the solar system, that's nothing. We are really nothing. Between the moon and the Earth, you can actually place like 6 Earths. So we are really insignificant, and we have to work together.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why we did this. We have to work together, and even more now, I think the emphasis on empowering girls and women on the ground with these powerful technologies, that's the key to this, right?